stepping into the Zoom. Big love, bold words. It's the elephant in the room.
Good day, everybody. It's another installation of the Elephant in the Room show, Heart to Heart with Lee Joy. I'm so excited to have Stephen Castle with us today. We're doing this interview for the second time because I was a nincompoop and pinned the video last time. But I'm very grateful to spend this time with you. I know that you are very busy and you've got lots of exciting things happening. Welcome, Stephen. Welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you for thanks for having me on the podcast. The last conversation we had was I felt great. I'm hoping that this next one is just as good, if not better.
Lovely. Thank you so much. You've got an event this week.
So tomorrow night I've got a boxing event on. It's a social boxing event, what people generally call white collar. I call action boxing. I've got a team coming here from Namibia taking on a team from South Africa. So it's going to be quite an exciting event tomorrow.
Wow, that's such fun. And I was seeing you posting the top box is 27 years old. That is amazing. The oldest gym in the country.
Yes, the longest running, oldest boxing gym in South Africa.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So, what an
Will
achievement
it be taking place? Is it going to take place at Top Box, your event?
No, it takes place at a place just down the road here in Pine Slopes in Fourways called Lock, Stock and Beer. We hold our events there on a Wednesday.
Yeah. Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, I've been there before. It's such fun, such a vibe.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about white collar boxing. I've done some research and listened to some of your interviews and stuff. And you love the game of boxing. It's something you're really, really passionate about. But you're also very concerned around how white collar boxing people aren't taking the precautions that they need to be taking. Would you like to speak about that?
Yeah, I think one of the primary concerns really has always been about boxing, professional boxing and boxing as a sport. I feel that there's certain people that disrespect the sport by what they do and how they do it. I've always did white collar and always have done white collar. And the idea that it's the social arm of boxing. It's not professional boxing. We don't have winners. We don't have losers. There's a thing in boxing that, for those who don't know, that professional boxers don't wear their tops. They don't wear T-shirts. They don't wear. It's bare-chested boxing, and there's a right that comes to that. You get to earn that right by taking your top off and fighting without it. As an amateur, you wear a vest. As a professional, you take your top off. And I've always maintained that if you're going to do anything outside of that, you always respect the sport enough not to sort of transgress those rules in that. And there are a lot of guys that are doing that are transgressing the basic rules, having winners and losers, having guys wear no shirts, wearing no headgear, wearing smaller gloves, all those sort of things. And those things for me is breaking the rules. They are breaking the rules according to exhibition boxing, which is what white collar is supposed to be. But they're getting away with it. And we've now been going for 12 years. We've been doing this, and no one's done anything about it. But it's sad because I think boxing loses a little bit of what it is about when you allow people to just break rules and do their own thing. But it's up to Boxing South Africa to sort that out, not me.
Yeah, but what I hear you saying is that it's dangerous. You know, it's not just disrespectful; it's also dangerous. And I'm wondering, so if we go a little bit deeper, and I'm wondering, what is it about boxing? I mean, you're the oldest pro. You were the oldest pro in South Africa, 35, which is amazing.
I was one of I am the oldest to turn pro in this country at 35 years old.
Amazing.
So I took the journey, and I know what it takes to do that work. And you don't play boxing. Everybody always says you don't play boxing. You play rugby, you play soccer, but you don't play boxing. And the reason being is you're getting hit, head. And if you're not protected, and if you're not looked after, and if your referee isn't trained correctly, and all those things, and you don't have the right safety around the event, somebody can get hurt, and people have got hurt, and people have died in the sport of boxing. So I'm always very cautious of that, and making sure that matchups are correct, making sure guys don't get matched up badly, and where they are matched up and it does go wrong, and it can go wrong, is that it gets stopped straight away, and the fighter must be saved. So yeah, I've got a lot of respect for the sport of boxing, and I try and make sure that I stay in the lane of respecting the sport at all times.
I'm gonna, you were managing teams, and then from managing teams, you decide, not teams with boxers, then you decided, okay, let me try out this thing called boxing. What, when you were managing boxers and when you went into the ring, what was it that you could take into the ring with you from a mental, obviously mental and emotional point of view that set you apart as a boxer?
I don't think going from managing going into fighting, there was as much of a difference in terms of what I could take with me. I think the biggest takeaway that I ever got from having to wear both hats is that when I went back to managing, back to coaching, I knew how hard it was to do the job. I also knew where my responsibilities were as a boxer and where they were as a manager, where before I sort of felt responsible for every aspect of it. And then having boxed, I realized that there's a lot of ownership lies on the fighter, of pitching up, on doing the work, of taking the responsibility on, as opposed to a manager nagging and shouting and saying, "Where, come train," I tended not to do that as much. I tended to say, and obviously making sure that the fighter understood that he had responsibility and he had ownership of himself, and that he had to carry that. So that, I think, was for me the reward from fighting, was when I went back to training fighters and I went back to managing fighters and promoting fighters. I had a different understanding as to where and who was responsible for what aspect of the fight game.
Yeah, I totally feel you, because I can relate that to the coaching game, the life coaching game. That I say that I'm swirling in the mud with people. I'm not sitting on I'm like some guru on the mountain, like spouting wisdom. And I definitely, having done this work and continue to do this work on myself, I realize where the responsibility of my clients lies in the transformation. Yeah, I mean, I had a very powerful, well-known South African lady in therapy yesterday, and she's like, "Lee, if you can't handle this, then you must tell me. I don't want to waste my time and my money." And I'm like, "Well, I can share with you the blind spots, but you got to do the work." So I think that's what you're talking about, where fighters are having to take responsibility. I saw with my friend Luke Michael, who's the EFC, who you trained for some time. When he first started fighting, and how massive the mental game became, something that he really worked on and continues to work on. So I guess, as being a fighter, you would have noticed that more keenly, having been in the space of fighting and then going into the corner. Yeah.
100%.
So
We're just talking about the mental side of sport and the mental side of the game and how that works. With paddle, it's the same thing. But I think with all sport, there's a massive mental side of it, and I think that there's a lot of ownership that you've got to take. But I think mental side of the game is 70% of it. You can do all the work, but 30% is going to be about what you've drilled and what you've trained. But if you aren't switched on and you aren't dialed in, you're going to have a problem, regardless of the sport.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we chatted last time where I told you that I like stormed off the court crying because I was just having like the worst day, and I was like, well, at least I've got paddle, and then I went to play paddle so badly, like, oh my God, it was so bad. And then I was just crying because I was like, and life is sucky and paddle's not sucky. I mean, is sucky as well. So you said something really powerful for me around how paddle is a mirror.
I think it's a mirror of where you are mentally. Where you are. If you're not in the right headspace, you're gonna be playing terribly. You're gonna you're going to fall off completely, regardless of what you think you know. Forget about your technique, forget about anything. If you're not mentally dialed in and focused, and it doesn't matter difference how many times you've hit that ball, no matter how many times you've played that volley, you are going to fail. So how you are mentally and how you are doing and emotionally as well is going to show on that court. But I think it shows in all sport. I think I think your performance is always a mirror of yourself. You know, and if you're not having, like you're having a bad day and you thought that paddle was going to save it, it didn't work out like that. It literally showed you that, listen, you're having a shit day and your paddle was shit. And it wasn't that because you're a bad player. It was just that moment in that time. And that's as simple as it can get, I think. That's how it works.
So how would I handle that going forward? Like if I had a bad day and I know, listen, I've got to get my head in the game, how would you suggest somebody gets dialed in, as you call it?
Listen, I think one of the only real ways to do that is you've got to take time out before that game. And when I mean time out, you literally, and if you, some people can't do it, some people don't know how to meditate, but you've got to really just have a quiet time, a quiet moment of where you can just deal with everything. And I think you need to feel everything. So many times we try and stop feelings, and I've been guilty of it a hell of a lot lately with everything that I'm being going through. And I always try and block the feelings. And I had a conversation with a very, very powerful spiritual healer, Michael, and he was saying that you've got to feel feel it, acknowledge it. And a very powerful thing that he said to me, which I've never thought about before, was he said, when those feelings rise, when that irritation, and it's not doesn't have to be emotional, it doesn't have to be a sadness, it could be an anger. But when they arise, acknowledge those feelings, and then actually tell those feelings that you accept them. Tell those feelings that I accept you, I accept it, and I can deal with it. And I think that itself brings its own calm, brings a massive amount of calmness to you. So if you are having a bad moment and you are having a bad day or a bad month, and you got to do something, and you got to go out and perform, and you need to be mentally clear as possible as you can. Take some time out. Take whether it be 10 minutes, whether it be 20 minutes, whatever it needs. Take that time out. Put away that phone. Turn off that music, and just take some moment and time out just to be out and get outside, take a walk, do something where you can just mentally reset and deal with everything that's happening. Because you can't deal with it if you're surrounded by things happening. If you got the phone ringing, you got the phone happening, you got scrolling through social media, listening to some song that might remind you of something else. There's too many things. You got to literally reset, completely reset. And as I said, deal with it. Deal with whatever there is there. And most importantly, accept it. Accept that I am where I am. I acknowledge those feelings. I acknowledge that anger. I acknowledge that sadness. Whatever it is, acknowledge it, and then say, okay, now what am I going to be doing next, and how I'm going to just maintain the focus in that, and that, and saying that I'm allowed to allow yourself to switch off from those feelings and those things to do what you need to do, and then you can re-deal with them. Maybe I haven't been able to deal with them before.
I love that. So is that feeling it to heal it, and accepting it to release it?
Yeah,
That's the
I think
image
that's
that I get of what you're saying. Yeah.
powerful. That's exactly it.
Mm,
Yeah, accept it to release it. I think
mm.
is and it's difficult. It's not easy, because I struggle with it, and it's always the case of always the knowing but never ever doing is like it's putting that into practice, and just be kind. So again, I always go back to this kindness thing: is allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to feel. It's so important. Too
Yeah, I
many times
love
we block
that.
it, or we stop it because we feel that we can't. We've got to allow ourselves. And the biggest teacher that for me, in a weird this way lately, has been my daughter. My daughter said to me, "Dad, feel it,
Mm,
feel the sadness, cry, So yeah, then that comes from a 28-year-old telling her 54-year-old dad, "You're allowed to." Yeah. So
It's so beautiful. I
wisdom
love
comes
that.
from strange places.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and I think you're right around kindness, and we always think about how we can be kind to others, and we're not always kind to ourselves, and feeling our emotions, giving our emotions space within our lives, and accepting is one of the greatest kindnesses we can show ourselves, because ultimately that kindness then pours onto others, because we're not then shitty to other people because we haven't been kind to ourselves.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Mm,
Probably one of the hardest things to learn is learning how to be kind to yourself, and
mm,
allowing yourself to break, and allowing yourself to be sorry.
mm.
I heard a beautiful mantra, and you probably heard of it, called Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, I
It's
love
an
a
Hawaiian
pono.
mantra,
Mm,
and I don't know how it took me so long to find out about this. I mean, it's taken me 54 years to find out about this, but what a powerful mantra.
mm,
And anybody going through anything, like no matter what it is, whether it's struggles at work, or struggles personally, or struggles in relationships, or whatever, do yourself a favor, go and go and read up about it, go listen to it, go listen to what it's about, and practice it, because sure, it's really special,
yeah, powerful.
special thing.
I've used it so often with taxi drivers. And it's and it works amazingly. The story of a Ponopono is amazing. I wish I could remember the psychiatrist's name who
Yeah, I
institute I'd
can't
really
remember.
recommend. Say?
I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name either. It's just,
Uh,
it's quite a strange
Yeah,
name, but
it's an
yeah.
amazing story. I'd love people to go and look it up. But the basic basis of the story is they had this jail in the States somewhere that or it may even be in South America, I can't remember, but where the inmates were just unruly, and they couldn't get these guys to come right.
Mm.
And it was as from what I understand, was a psychiatric ward for jailbirds. And basically this guy practiced this hoponopono with these guys, and after a period of time, they were just this hospital just turned around completely, and people were getting healed left, right, and center. It's just such a beautiful story.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, listen, it's powerful, and it works.
mm,
So if you want a calmness to yourself, nothing better. Go and read the mantra. And there's quite a few guys that have actually taken the mantra and put it into a I wouldn't say a song, because I hate the idea of a song, but into a praise.
mm,
So yeah, just play it, listen to it, yeah, practice it.
beautiful. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they've got them on Insight Timer. There's and the Ho'oponopono's there, and they may even now have it on Spotify. We'd have to have a look.
it's on
But yeah, thank you
Spotify,
for
it's
that.
on YouTube Music, it's everywhere, because
Yes,
I've looked for it and
yes.
it's everywhere. So it's available,
Okay, beautiful,
definitely.
beautiful. So, if you could say one or two sentences to your inner teenager, what would you say to him?
Sure. My inner teenager, my first thing I would say is, you've got time, you've got time. And then, mm, probably just, again, going back to just be kind,
Mm,
kind to yourself.
mm,
I think I've, I think I was hard on myself for a very long time,
mm,
and
yeah.
I struggled to allow myself to fail, struggled to allow myself to acknowledge that I can be kind, that I can be this person is flawed, that
Mm,
that makes mistakes.
mm,
And yeah, be and be and you don't have to be tough all the time.
mm,
You're allowed to be soft, you're allowed to be tender.
mm,
So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest things that I would tell myself. You have
mm,
time, be kind, and you're allowed to be soft.
mm. And that's
Yeah.
such a powerful, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for going there with me. I appreciate the courage that took. And I'm wondering how, as men today, there's this confusion around roles. And what does it mean to be a man? And how are we meant to be? How are you guys meant to be men? And I wonder if that doesn't come from how you guys were parented.
Listen, the role of a man today is completely, I think, lost and skewed. We grew up we grew up in a time where a man had had functions, yeah, and there weren't functions that couldn't be done by a woman, but they didn't need to be done by her. They, you know, people had roles, and society worked. I think a lot of where we are today is there's a confusion as to what we're allowed to be and who we're allowed to be. Men were always the providers. It doesn't mean that a woman can't provide. It means that we were providers. We were always the head of the home. We were the head of the home, not because were cleverer, but a decision had to be made and somebody had to make it. And men were given that right to do, and were supported by the home, wrongly or rightly in terms of the decision made. But there was a place for that leadership and for that strength. And then men were the protectors. We protected our families, and now today we get told that, you know we don't have to do that, and we shouldn't do that. And there's this whole change as to who does what, and who's responsible for what. And I think a lot of it is, and we have spoken about this, and I think a lot of it has been the rise of feminism, to a
Mm,
point of where the rise of feminism was about an equal say, has now become about the complete the complete opposite of taking over
mm,
roles, taking over the position of men. So men definitely aren't that anymore. They don't carry that same strength, and we can see it in the generation that's coming through at the moment. Is they're lost, they're
mm,
confused, they don't know what they're supposed to be, they don't know where they're
mm,
supposed to go, and I- I'm I'm deeply concerned about the next generation, the 20-year-olds that I'm seeing today walking around with not a clue as to what and where they and what they should be doing.
mm,
We grew up in a society, and I think even myself, that's my job. My job is to protect my family, and my
mm,
protection doesn't mean I protect them physically against. Sure,
mm,
that's part of it. If there's an intruder, I'm the guy that's gonna take the fall. But I protect my family emotionally. I protect them, um, with stability, with my strength, with knowing where I am and where I stand. Um, and then providing for your family is providing, giving them, it's not just a financial thing. It's providing that stability, which incorporates being protective, and
mm,
also as a head of the household, with the guy that. And I think men predominantly are more factual than women and less emotional when it comes to decision making, and that's an important thing to be. So
mm,
we can make decisions factually. We lead from that. Now we're not allowed to do that. Now we have to be more emotional. We're told to be more emotional. And we got to. And I spoke about being tender and being softer.
mm,
That doesn't mean be emotional and not make things clear.
mm,
It means being allowed to feel
mm.
is different to when it comes to providing a stable environment. There's a difference.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
and
Because I
guys
mean,
guys don't have it.
yeah, I mean, if one's coming from an angry place, then you're emotional and you're not going to make good decisions because you're coming from a place of anger. So I
Yeah,
understand that stability and that protection emotionally that comes from the masculine, that should come from the masculine because that's a strength that the masculine has, right?
yeah,
So I totally agree. I mean, I think the feminists have done amazing things, but I think that there's also been a blowback that has been very detrimental to what it means to be a man today. And I think men, especially our generation, are sitting with, and I think the younger guys, because our generation's a bit lost in that space as well,
yeah,
around. Yeah, and I hear it. I mean, my partner will say to me, "Lee, stop being so hard. You're so masculine." And then I said to him, babe, I'm in a world where I reverse out the car. And like, you don't think, oh, someone's going to smash the window and grab my handbag. You don't have the same experience of life as I do as a woman. And I've got to like put up these boundaries around me, these protective boundaries around me because I'm out in the world. So I need you to hold me and to help me, almost like you were talking about that moment in the Ho'oponopono. I think that's a beautiful way to transition at home from being in my strong masculine, and not like that I'm only in my masculine, because my work asks me to be feminine as well. But when I'm at home in the evenings, that I'm not like I'm solution focused, and he's like, babe, just hear what I'm saying, don't try and come up with a
Yeah,
solution.
yeah,
And suddenly that role's being shifted because
yeah,
people are saying like men don't listen, they just want to fix things. But women have taken on that thing where they're not listening to men and they want to fix things. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I do. I think the question, the answer to the question really is that roles are not defined anymore,
Mm,
and I think somewhere in that, that's where the problem lies. And how do we redefine those roles? I'm not really sure what the answer is, but I definitely feel that there should be a little bit more of going back to define roles, and not saying that you can't do it. Like you say, you need to be strong when you need to be strong, but
mm,
you also need to be in a position where you can be protected and not shun that protection and not shun
mm,
that blanket of support when it's needed,
mm,
and being vulnerable
mm.
in the environment of home.
I think the picture that I'm seeing, Stephen, is that men also need their transition when they get home, because you guys are also out in the world and doing hard stuff, and you've shown me something really beautiful now around when a man comes home and he's able to, I don't know, speak to a buddy or download with somebody, so that when he comes home he can be in his power, so that the woman can surrender. Because if both of them are in their fighting strong masculine energy, then there's no
Yeah,
space for softness and there's no protection. And a woman needs that sense of protection in order, and emotional protection is what you've not just
yeah,
physical attention, because when she's emotionally protected, then she can soften, she can feel vulnerable, and she can, step into her feminine. And I'll tell you today, I know a lot of very powerful women, because of the work that I do, and my friends are powerful women. And every single one of them will tell you how they love being a woman, how they love being offered the opportunity to soften and go into that feminine flow, and that
yeah,
we're struggling with it in our own rights as women today, because we don't know how to do that on our own, because of the fear of what we're surrounded by.
sure. No, 100%. I also think that not everyone's going to be in that right space, and no one's going to allow themselves to be able to be there either. And
Mm,
we live in a society of a lot of toxic
mm,
behavior in terms of mental sort of side of it, from
mm,
uh, narcissists to
mm,
depression to these control freaks. And so it's difficult to always be in that space, but when you find the right partner, then all those things flow naturally. I think they all
mm,
happen naturally when you're with the right person, because they
mm.
bring that out of you.
Yeah, I
But you
agree.
also
And
need to know who you are.
yeah, I absolutely. I think self-awareness is the beginning of healing. And in the work that I do, people think, oh no, they've got to go and do all this work on their own before they come into the dating space. And I'm like, for sure, there is some stuff, the healing that you need to do on yourself to be able to grow. But there's a lot of healing that can only happen in connection with another or in partnership, because a lot of our wounding actually happened in relationship with our parents or our siblings or with exes or
Oh, yeah.
whatever. Um, yeah,
So we
so I've
we
got an
carry a hell of a
interview
lot of
with,
stuff.
yeah, say again.
Yeah. I don't know. So we carry a lot of stuff. We carry stuff
Mm,
from childhood. We carry stuff from past relationships, from a lot of places. And if we don't take the time to look at them, they can destroy you. I
mm,
mean, I've come a long journey where I've had to rewire myself
Mm,
in a way, in a sense, to learn that, and also recognize that
mm,
certain behaviors aren't who I am. These
mm,
behaviors are behaviors that have been taught to me through wounds, and then not healing those wounds. I carry those wounds and I carry those behaviors. So I've had to spend a lot of time, and I'm still healing. I'm still trying to be the version of myself that I need to be. So it's tough.
yeah. No, it's not easy. I was sitting this morning in my quiet time, and there's a thing that I'm working on at the moment around physical touch or affection and words of affirmation. Those are my two love languages, and I realized that I've maladaptively, because I never got that as a child, I've put myself into situations where I've wanted that and I haven't gotten it. So it's like a double wound. And I was just praying this morning and saying, God, please heal me of not getting it as a child, so that I don't have this hyper reliance on people doing it in my life now. But also teach the people that I love how to do that, so that as a woman I can experience it. So it's been a very interesting shift of taking self responsibility, but also being vulnerable and open and saying, hey, these are my needs. And there's certain people that, like, my partner is the only person that's going to give me a certain form of affection. I'm not going to outsource that to somebody else, because that's not my vibe. I'm not a polygamist. I'm not, I'm a one man woman. So
Yeah.
it's interesting not to put pressure on someone, and not to have expectation, but to invite somebody to step on your path of healing, and to be vulnerable about what that looks like, and to say, and to invite them to step into that space and help you heal, or help me heal for that matter.
You could never do that. You could never do that if you hadn't first looked at it yourself and realized where your wounds were,
Mm,
and dealt with those wounds, because
mm,
you can't heal something you don't know what he saw. It's like
mm,
I'm sore, but I don't know what it is.
mm,
It's, you need to know what it is, and what why are you feeling the way you're feeling. And it goes back down to what we were saying: is allow yourself to feel, allow yourself those feelings, accept those feelings, and then work through them. That's part of the healing process, I think.
mm.
Well, it's something I'm learning
Yeah,
at the ripe
I
old
think you're
age.
right. I think you're right. And I think it comes down to kindness, like you said, around feeling to heal and accepting to release. Uh, and then showing kindness towards yourself. Like, if I can use this example of where I never received affection as a child, where I sat with myself and I said, you didn't receive it as a child, but it's not your fault that you didn't receive it.
Yeah,
And I really want to encourage you to let it go, because that hunger is not kind to my inner child, and it's not kind to me as an adult, and I can't
yeah.
change it. I can't change what happened in my childhood, but I can understand that that was a need that went unmet, and I'm sorry that the Ho'oponopono, please forgive me, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, thank you, I love you, to yourself. That's been a very powerful thing for me to do, never mind to others, but to myself, and even to
Oh,
God sometimes.
definitely, without a doubt. I think that's the thing where I say about going back to kindness. Being kind to yourself is allowing yourself to be wrong,
Mm,
to know where you failed, and
mm,
then accepting it and
mm,
saying sorry, forgive me. You know,
mm,
that that's the most powerful, because without that
mm,
you can't.
mm. And I think
There's
that
just
we
no way to
can't.
heal.
Yeah, if we don't acknowledge what we've done wrong and show kindness to ourselves, and ask another to be kind towards us in that uh, experience, and we
Yes.
don't change the behavior, I don't think we're actually able to change the behavior unless we've been kind to ourselves, because we could just egotistically say, oh, I'm sorry, and like want to just wash it away and say, like
Mm.
saying sorry just to make it go away. But when we show kindness to ourselves and we acknowledge the depth of what we've done and how it's affected somebody else's life, and we speak to that, like, I'm sorry,
Mm.
and I can see how that must have been really hard for you, and I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that that doesn't happen again. I think is a great kindness that we show to ourselves and to another.
I always say that the way people struggle to be kind to themselves, that they don't understand the concept of it. A lot of people that are carrying a lot of wounds. And I always say to them, like, if you want to learn how to be kind to yourself, be kind to somebody that you think doesn't deserve it.
Mm,
Show kindness to somebody that you really feel doesn't deserve it. And if you can be kind to that person, then being kind to yourself is not that far away.
mm,
So
beautiful.
it's taking that step and just allowing that. Again, it goes back to the Ho'oponopono. Forgive me, I'm sorry.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
the mantra is
beautiful.
very powerful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, in closing, where would you say the elephant in the room sits with you today? Either in your own personal life, or in business, or in your industry. What is the one thing that you feel is uncomfortable and you or people are not um, able, willing to talk about?
I would normally have said I wouldn't be able to talk about it, but I'm now in a space where I can talk about it. And that's the growth. And the elephant for me in the room is, and has always been, carrying everybody's idea of who they think I am. So people paint a picture of who I am. I'm a boxer. I'm the guy that boxes. I'm the tough guy.
Mhm,
There's this persona of this rough, tough guy that I've carried for a very long time. And it's coming to the realization, and the elephant in the room is allowing people to see that now. That's not who I am.
mm,
It's what I did. It's something
mm,
that I but it's not who I am.
mm,
And it's now showing people that I am not just that. I
mm,
can be that because I
mm,
know how to be that, because that's all I've been for so many for
mm.
years, but it's not who I am.
It's
So
like there's different aspects to you, and there's this aspect of you that really stood front and center for in your life for a long time, where you're going, okay, cool, he's there, and I value him, and I love him, and I'm going to show kindness to him and gratitude to him for who he's being. But there are other elements of you that you wanted, like that you're being vulnerable about, that there are newer or other aspects of you that you want to show in life and be in life,
yes,
that gives you a fuller experience and a whole experience of who you are.
yes, 100%.
Nice.
So yeah, that for me has always been the elephant in the room, is that I've never allowed myself to be vulnerable, never allowed
Mm,
myself to be authentically myself. I've always lived under the persona that people thought I was,
mm,
and the person that they believed I was. I lived up to that character, and
mm,
it's changing that now. It's changing
mm,
that perception, changing that idea of what people think I am and who I am. Not
mm.
forcefully, just I'm not afraid to be that anymore.
Beautiful. It's so beautiful. I could talk to you for hours. And I hope I get more opportunities to have conversations with you. This has been really, I'd say, life changing for me. Thank you. I see things in a different
Thank you.
way. Not only like kindness towards men, kindness towards myself. And I think that I resonate with you in my 50s. I like a joint paddle. I've started this podcast. I started watercolor. It's like there was, like Brene Brown says, life came and tapped me on the shoulder and said, there's no more fucking around. And that's what I feel like my life is now. And I've got, when I was a kid, I had time, and I've got time now, like you said, to your inner child or your inner teenager. But let's not fuck around. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
But remember, you still have time,
Yeah, for sure.
without a doubt.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
thank
Yeah, I'm
you.
still young. 52, still young.
We still got time. Yeah. So enjoy all the moments
Yeah.
while you can.
Yeah,
I
and
think that's
all
the
of it's
biggest thing.
beautiful, right? All of it's
Yeah.
beautiful. The pain, the glory, all of it is beautiful. It's all part of the tapestry. And when we're in it, and it feels uncomfortable and painful, it's not nice. It's not lekker.
Mm.
But it's like that if we're not experiencing the joy and we're not experiencing the pain, we can't really lean into the depth of the joy if we're not leaning into the depth of the pain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure, and it's insightful for myself again as well to talk about the things that I'm going through, and yeah, it reminds me of things that I've still to do.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. To our listeners, thank you for joining in for this conversation. Please feel free to comment in the comment section. Have a look at the links. We'll be putting Stephen's links into the show notes, so you can go and have a look at all the different things that he's up to. And wish you a beautiful day. Remember to go and have a look at our membership site and choose a membership there that best suits you. And we look forward to the next conversation. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye.
Big talk, real talk. There's an elephant in the room. Heart to heart with Lee Joy. Saying what we're scared to say. Oh yeah. Laugh a little, cry a little, but we're going there today. Heart to heart with Lee Joy. True stepping into the Zoom. Big love, bold words. It's the elephant